Now you may have noticed that the ControlPi image is only about 2 or 3 gig, which means if you burn it to an SD card with 16 gig or 32 gig, you won't be using all of that space. So I'm here, I'm logged in with SSH to the ControlPi image running on a Raspberry Pi, and I'll type in here df space -h to see how much disk space I have available. So it's disk free, and the -h is just for human readable so that these numbers make sense to us. And you'll see right here, the root has 2 gig available to it. And that's about half of the card. We still got almost a gig left to use, which should actually be okay for most of the projects that you're doing. But if you do have some websites that you're going to host from there with lots of graphics or whatever the reason is, you may want to expand the size of this root to take up the entire SD card. So I'll show you how to do that right now. First, we're going to have to put this into read-write. So we'll say RW, and we'll enter our password. And we'll have to enter it twice, of course. And then I'll go into super user with sudo su. And we'll have to edit some files first. Because we'll be changing these mounts, we'll need to change some of those settings that that come in the image that make it read only. So we'll have to edit 3 files, and then we could expand the size of the card, and then we'll have to edit those 3 files again. It's really not all that bad and not completely necessary, but if you do want to use your full disk space, then we'll need to do something like this. So I'll paste these commands in here, and this will all be listed below the video. Nano is just a text editor, and this is the file that I want to edit. So we'll hit enter there, and in this file, we're going to remove fastboot noswap.ro, just those last 3 words there. Then we'll press Control O to write that, and hit enter to save it, and then Control X to exit. And we'll do that again for 2 more files. So I've got another one here, etc. fstab, we'll edit that. And here we want to remove the comma RO from both of these mounts. So we'll remove those, and that's it. This is how it should look. Control O to write it, enter to save, Control X to exit. And we've got one more file to edit here, and that's etc. bash.bash underscore logout. And here we're just going to remove everything. So we'll use Control K to cut all of that text, and then Control O to save, enter to save it, and Control X to exit. Great. So now we're in a state where we could actually expand that root card, expand that root file system, and use all the space available to us on our SD card. And we'll do that by going into raspi config, RASPI -config or dash, raspi config, hit enter, and then we'll select option 7 for advanced options and go down. It's actually the first selection here, expand the file system. So we'll just hit enter on that, and then it'll say it's been resized, but actually nothing has happened yet until we reboot. So we'll say okay, and then we'll exit out of here. This is the left-right keys to get out of there. We'll select finish. Would you like to reboot now? We'll say yes, and then we'll come back to it and run that df command again and see that we'll be using the entire SD card. And then we'll have to go back and edit those 3 files again, and then we're done. Then we can get started. All right, see you back here in a second. All right, so let's see what happens. We'll log back in, enter the password, and then we will use that disk-free -h command, so df -h, and lo and behold, we've got 15 gig available to us now. So instead of half of our disk space being used, we're only using 7% now. We've got all of the rest of that available to us. So that's how you expand it, but we do have to go back and correct those changes that we made before. We have to go back and change things back to the way they were. So we'll start by saying RW to get back into read-write mode. Enter our password twice, and then we'll say sudo su, so we are logged in as root, and then we'll edit those files again. So the first one is boot command line .text. And we'll go right to the end there, and we will add fast boot, no swap RO. Again, all this stuff will be in a blog post underneath the video. So we'll say Control O, enter, Control X. And the next one we'll do is the etc fstab. We'll edit that guy as well. And here we needed to, for each mount, add comma RO. So right after defaults there, we'll say comma RO. And for the second mount, right after no A time, we'll say comma RO. And then Control O, enter, Control X. And then the last file will be that logout file to enter, to edit. And then I'll just copy all of this stuff and paste it right in there. And then Control O, enter to save, and Control X. And now everything should be just the way it was. And we could reboot the Raspberry Pi and just test things to see how it boots up and what it looks like when it boots up. And when it does, we should have a read-only prompt, and then we should be able to go into our Node-RED installation and start programming some automation and control.